Okay, this is a review of utility. Okay, let me show you what the rules are. The basic rules with the utility topic is that there is diminishing marginal utility. Okay, if we were to look at total utility, as you consume more of something, here's the quantity, here's the total utility. The utility is increasing, but it's increasing slower and slower. Okay? The slope of total utility is marginal utility. So marginal utility is becoming smaller and smaller. So if we had to make a mirroring graph with marginal utility, you'd see that it's decreasing, and it might even become zero at some point. So if when you hit the top of total utility, so in other words, if it's the case that as you consume more and more of something, you get more joy, but the rate of increase of your happiness is slower and slower, and it might be that you reach a point where that's your maximum utility, and if you consume more, it'll actually make you unhappy. So that would be where marginal utility hits zero. Okay, so usually the top of the mountain, the maximum utility occurs where marginal utility is zero. Okay, having said that, so we're saying there's diminishing marginal utility. Okay, the way we would see that is if I have quantity, total utility, marginal utility, I can have, here's some sample numbers. So total utility is 0, then it goes to 10, then it goes to 18, then it goes to 24, then it goes to 26. So you see marginal utility is the increase, so it's the change in total utility divided by the change in quantity. Here it would be the change in total utility is 10 divided by 1, so it's 10. The second unit gives you 18 minus 10 is 8, divided by 1 is 8. Then we have going from 18 to 24, that's 6. Going from 24 to 26, it's 2. So you see that the first unit gave you an additional 10 units of happiness. The second unit gave you an additional 8 units of happiness. The third unit gave you an additional 6 units of happiness. And the fourth unit gave you an additional 2 units of happiness. So in this case, the fourth unit increases your happiness. You see that you go from 24 to 26. It's just that the rate of increase, right, is slower than the previous unit. So the fourth unit gave you extra happiness, but the extra happiness it gave you is less than the extra happiness you got from the third unit, which is less than the extra happiness you got from the second unit, and so on. That's what diminishing marginal utility refers to. So when it comes to a customer deciding how much of an item to purchase, you continue to purchase as long as marginal utility, okay, is greater than or equal to the price. Okay? You're not going to buy something if the extra happiness it gives you is less than the cost, right? So you're only going to continue to buy as long as the extra happiness it gives you is greater than the cost. Okay? And ideally, right, you would stop exactly where the last unit gives you just as much happiness as it costs you. This is the rule if you're deciding how much of one item to buy. If you're deciding how much of 2 items to buy, for each item, you're going to compare the additional happiness you get with the cost. This is what we refer to as the value you get from this item. So this is for, let's say, Coke, okay? And if you are comparing it to how much you get from Pepsi, right? So when you're deciding how many Cokes, how many Pepsis to buy, you're going to continue to buy more Coke as long as it gives you more additional happiness relative to its cost than Pepsi, okay? Ideally, you stop when they're just equal, okay? So if I give you an example where marginal utility relative to price is greater than marginal utility relative to price here, that means you should buy more of this and less of this, okay? So these are the rules, okay? This is the first rule is the rule for buying one item. The second rule is for buying two items. Let's go through the quiz to apply this. Okay? First, to maximize utility, a consumer with a fixed budget will purchase quantities of goods so that the ratio of, so here it's talking about buying more than one good, so the ratio of marginal utility of each good to its price are equal, right? So the answer would be equal. Okay? That would be the answer, right? Because basically what we're saying is the rule is you want to make sure marginal utility relative to price is equalized across the two goods. Okay, when total utility is at its maximum, you're at the top of the mountain, marginal utility is equal to 0, right? Remember we said at the top of the mountain, marginal utility, the slope is 0. According to the law of diminishing marginal utility, which of the following is true? Let's see. Total satisfaction decreases as you consume more? No, because we know that total satisfaction keeps increasing as you consume more. It's just that it's increasing at a slower rate. So this is definitely false. The additional satisfaction received from consuming extra units of a good decreases as consumption of the good decreases? No, as consumption of the good increases, the additional satisfaction decreases. So this is false. When marginal utility is decreasing, total utility is decreasing. No, that's not true. Total utility keeps increasing. The additional satisfaction received from consuming extra units of a good decreases as consumption of the good increases. That's the answer. Jane spends all of her weekly allowance to buy only two goods, soda and apples. According to the table above, if preferences are characterized by the law of diminishing marginal utility, then which of one of the following statements is correct? So let's take a look what's happening here. Here's for soda, marginal utility is 10, price is 1. For apples, marginal utility is 25, price is 2. We know the rule would be to set marginal utility divided by price, right? So for soda, the value she's getting is 10 divided by 1, which is 10. For apples, the value is 25 divided by 2, which is 12.5. So she gets more value out of apples than out of soda. So she should buy more apples and less soda. Okay? So basically, Jane can buy more apples and, no. Jane can buy more apples and less soda to maximize her utility. This would be the answer. Which of the following is true if consuming 1 unit of a good yields 100 utils and consuming the second unit of the good increases satisfaction by 20 utils? So this is what it's saying is total utility of 1 is 100 and marginal utility of the second is 20, right? The additional utility from the second is 20. So that means that the total utility of the second of 2 is 120. Okay? Again, if total utility of 1 is 100 and the additional utility of the second is 20, that means total utility of 2 is 120. Okay? So this is the quiz associated with utility. I hope you find this useful. Just always remember these are the 2 rules, okay, when it comes to utility.